better, you could always build it smoother or the newest generation, and you may be lucky and it may hit, but you're going to be spending more time and resources on trying to get it to where people will recognize it and see it. What you want to do is stick to the boring stuff, the stuff that a lot of people wouldn't think about developing, but there's a need for it. That's the trick.
pretty much defensible that you should go out and build it. Keep in mind, this is going to apply for just a straight up full-fledged SaaS, but also a service-based offer that you're going to do. Let me make one thing clear. The 97% is not because of bad luck, okay? The same 3 mistakes kept showing up in my analysis, regardless of who built it or from where. And the data's been sitting in public for over a year, but nobody actually reads this data. So this is why we have this video. And by the end of this entire presentation, so by slide 60, you're gonna know exactly which bucket your idea sits in. And once you see this pattern, it's gonna be very difficult for you to unsee it. So number 1, crowded ICP. For those of you who don't know, ICP stands for Ideal Customer Profile. Essentially, what ends up happening most of the time is people build for an audience that's already drowning in clones. It's the most common way that applications die or ideas die. It's also the most boring one. Simply put, engineers build for engineers. When that happens, everybody loses, okay?
How you doing?
You have you and every other vibe coder that's currently watching this video probably crowding the same exact part of the internet, making the same exact things, leaving businesses such as plumbers, dental clinics, and regional HVAC companies pretty much bare bones with nothing to them. 13 of the top 15 product hunt launches in 2025 were tagged AI. 67% of YC's 2025 batch was AI, and 42% of the SaaS failures that came from that, well, because there was no market need for it. It died because nobody.
That's exactly what I was just saying. The reason why a lot of good ideas or good apps that you think that are good and you develop it, there's no market for it, no need for it, and that's where the failure comes from. It doesn't mean you didn't develop a good app. It doesn't mean that your app sucks. It just means that there's no market for it. There's no need for it, and that's an important distinction when it comes to developing an app.
Wanted it. People just simply hopped on a trend. But understand that saturation by itself doesn't necessarily kill your app because there is no such thing as saturation. If you build a good solution for a painful enough problem, you will always have customers as long as you understand how to market it. And that is actually where we come into play. And that is actually what happens. Pricing kills your app. What determines what you can charge is very dependent on the market. So when you have a million clones doing the same exact thing, some free, some paid, you can't really charge too much. But when you have less than 5 or 10 clones, you are able to charge a consistent price.
That's what I was telling you guys. It's all about the premium. So you want to be up there when there's only a few clones of an app, right? That's where the big money's at. And after everyone starts to copy your idea, that starts to saturate, and they would have to underprice you, and then the next person underprices them, and it just keeps dropping down. And by the time you get to the point where you're developing in this area here, where there's already 50 plus clones or anything like that, and you're trying to match the price of the number one top company out there, you're never going to make it. You actually have to think about, is it worth developing it in this space, first of all, and second of all, are you at a price range that you can start getting your clients and customers? You really have to stay competitive in what the competitive market is.
Quite high. Obviously, law of supply and demand. But understand that the plumber down the street doesn't have 50 clones. He has 0. Okay?
Dark. I have
So
not. I did not
most
check that out.
people
Here,
end up utilizing
check it out
AI
here in a
or any
minute.
type of vibe coded app to build email writers, note takers, coding tools,
After this, I'll check it out.
GPT, Claude wrappers, whatever the case, image generators, these type of things. But the actual money is in local HVAC routing software, dental clinic intake automations, regional manufacturing inventory, law firm document workflows. How do I know that? These are all things that we at AB Analytics, our consulting firm, have actually.
And this is why I developed like my SaaS. It falls in line of this market here, and it's a boring app for a lot of people. They look at it and they're like, oh, that's boring. It's cool, but it's boring. But there's a real need for it, especially when there's a lot of companies that are starting up from scratch, service type companies, and they don't have the tools or resources to get their company rolling. So there's a need for it. That's why I went ahead and built it. But there's a lot of stuff like this out there, right? Like AI coding tools. I'm building one right now, but it's not really needed or wanted because there's so many different ones out there. So it's really not a great market to be into. Where you want to focus on is areas like this.
Done. And these are all multi-5, low six-figure projects. And this side over here, you have every single
Video
software
games
engineer on the internet.
is it depends on. So video games is a separate beast. Because inside of video games you have your genre of video games, your genre of the type of games, and there's niche markets inside of it, whether it's an RTS, FPS, real-time strategy, or like an auto clicker, or is it I don't know, like that Vampire Survivor game, right? He built the guy who created that, just because there's 1,000 or millions of different games out there. The guy who created Vampire Survivor, he created a brand new niche, and there's a bunch of clones after that, right? But he started it, and that can happen.
Building towards it. Thousands of competitors. On the right side over here, if you have competition, it's most likely going to come from a non-technical source, meaning you have the advantage. Okay? So just to give you a little bit of recap as to what we talked about. If you are competing in a saturated market, right? It's called the red ocean or the blue ocean. If you're in the red ocean, chances are your idea is going to be dead on arrival. The AI tool space in 2026 is what SEO was in 2014, extremely packed. Each new clone in your category.
Well, think about this. Why not create a service, AI driven, that can help drive that creativity for people? It helps them come up. You can go in there and plug in your skills, your abilities, what you're good at, what you're not good at, and maybe it can generate a list of ideas. This is a service you can sell. That in itself is an idea.
It's going to drag the price down for everybody. If you all remember, I believe it was Interview Coder, Roy Lee's, where you can cheat on an Amazon interview. Take a look at what happened to that particular software. Take a look at the revenue dip it experienced. Second it came out, people started cloning it because obviously it was easy to clone. There's a lot of free versions on GitHub that you can get, and thus it died. Now, local, boring, and willing to pay, that's where pretty much nobody else is because obviously it's boring. If you can describe your ICP in one tweet, understand so can 10,000 other people. So whenever you see all these indie hackers posting stuff on Twitter, one tweet that describes your entire ICP probably means you have a lot more competition than you signed up for, okay?
Yep.
The boring stuff is where the money is hiding. Now, let's move on to failure mode number 2, the trust ceiling. A lot of these apps that we took a look at hold up fine in very low stakes domains. But the moment that real money or auth gets involved, they fall over. The day a real user shows up, that's when you find out. So the trust ceiling, if I were to describe it based on what I've seen, is as follows. Anything that has to do with enterprise data, author identity, legal, healthcare, any type of high value payments, anything of that sort, you can pretty much forget about vibe coding it. Now, you can maybe get away with a couple B2C software and stuff like internal dashboards, weekend tools, habit trackers, to-do lists, not too bad. But anything above the line without properly testing and the user breaking is going to have extremely significant consequences for you.
Yeah, and this is very important too. Anytime you're dealing with like my SaaS, for instance, it actually is. He calls it in the yellow line here. I would consider it a little bit above the red line, and the reason why is if a company entrusts their finances with me, their information, their data, all their customers, that customer base alone has a value to them. And it's very important for them. So they're using me as a database or my SaaS as a place to store all that information. And if that gets hacked or anything gets broken, lost, or damaged, it can hurt the reputation of their company. So there's that trust factor. And it's so important. Like I could build this app, but if I don't have no users in it that can prove that it works, it's going to be hard for me to sell. And I had to get over that point. Oh, I'm sorry. I don't know why my mic is low. Sorry about that. But anyways, yeah, this is a good indicator on where you should build at. Anything that has to do with payments, healthcare, legal, try to stay away from because there is, unless you're an expert in it, right?
Anything under the line, you'll survive. And understand that 45% of AI generated code fails OWASP top 10, okay? Nearly half of what came out of these tools ship with exploitable holes. Understand that. And there are three numbers that we have to take a look at to really understand how critical all of this is. Vibe coded stuff has 1.7 times more major issues than human written code, 2.74 times more security vulnerabilities introduced, and 75% more configurations across PRs reviewed. If we take a look at Lovable, 170 out of 1,645 apps built with it had critical auth flaws. You might think that's not a lot, but that's 10% of everything you're shipping out comes with literal security issues. Anybody had full access to it. The worst part about this is it's extremely quiet. Nobody understood it until weeks later, and some people began to notice. Now, take a look at Moltbook. Entire
I don't think that's a hit on Lovable, what he was saying here. Um, I think a lot of that had to do with the type of people Lovable brings in to develop the app. So their model is, come on in and you develop an app in 3 clicks, pretty much. And a lot of people developed apps with it, but they didn't do it in a way that they had security in mind, and a lot of it failed for them.
some people began to notice. Now, take a look at Moltbook. Entire database exposed via the public API key. It was built end through prompts, shipped to production with the API key still sitting in a front-end bundle. It
You
stayed
can never
live
hard
for
code
days,
API
and the
keys.
Wiz research team caught it before the founder did. So it was literally an AI social network meant for AI agents, but the team never built around the assumption that a human would poke at it and try to obviously take advantage of it. Another thing that I've seen based on everything that I took a look at was that people would come in, such as, look, my SaaS was built with cloud code, zero handwritten code, make a YouTube video about it, post it on Twitter, and then date number 3 would come, and then they would say, guys, I'm under attack. Their keys would hit the rate limit overnight, paywall got bypassed with dev tools, database filling with bot junk, and prompt injection garbage. Just because that individual did not write the code, they could not fix it either. And every single one of these issues was caught by the same test. The founder never ran it, okay? So just to kind
It's always important to test your own product. And if you can, so one of the things that I do when I'm vibe coding is I'm always having them do a penetration test on mine, and I also do full code reviews. And anytime there is any API involvement, I like to get my hands in that just so I can see where it's at, where it's being used, and that's something you guys will learn over time as well.
of understand this a little bit better. If it's low stakes, if you're gonna vibe code something, it's somewhat survivable. But if it's high stakes, it's gonna be a graveyard. There is a strict line, okay, when it comes to money, health, off, where vibe coded stops being good enough. If your app touches any of those, you need to verify the API yourself before you launch. Founders test the happy path. Attackers go straight for the one you didn't think of, okay? And understand a working demo doesn't mean a working product. Strangers will find what you missed. And keep in mind, the bug isn't really in the code that you're going to write, it's in the test that you never thought to write.
Exactly. That's
And last but not
there's
least,
so much truth in that. And I've seen people do like you could create something and you tested it end to end. Everything you did was working exactly as you intended. Then you give it in the hands of somebody and they do that one thing that you just didn't think about trying. And that's the part that breaks. That happens more often than not.
failure mode number 3, feature compounding. Vibe coding can get a product to version 1, but keeping it alive past version 1 is the part that nobody really talks about. Okay? What we've seen based on the 2000 that we analyzed, based on the thousands of vibe coded apps we analyzed, was that every feature is pretty much alone. And the interest is bugs that you cannot find. So when you go from feature 1 to feature 50 to feature 200 to feature 2000, by the time you get to 2001, something in the first 2000 is broken and you have no map of where to look exactly. And you might think,
Yes. So one of the have you guys been keeping update with the news, and all these new vulnerabilities are coming out and being discovered. Like there's a big one for Linux that hit every single Linux distributions out there. The other one is there's a bunch of Microsoft products that have a bunch of vulnerabilities in it that just got discovered. And there's all these new discoveries that are happening, and those new discoveries is happening because AI is finding them. They know what to do. They know where to look. Um, if you prompt your AI just right, you can have it find bugs that even today you wouldn't think about, or even um, actual real developers out there didn't think about. So you can prevent a lot of that in your prompts and harden your code if you vibe code it just right.
Well, but wouldn't AI solve this problem? Well, that's what most devs thought. They thought if they were using AI, they would be 24% faster, but they were 19% slower because they had to deal with so much bug fixing. And understand the biggest point about AI is its ability to produce an MVP like that. But a prototype, an MVP works only once. A product has to work a million times. So sure, you can demo beautifully on a founder's laptop, but the founder is going to be the only real users. Only the happy path is going to work. It's going to break the first time somebody hits an edge case. But a product has to survive 10,000 strangers without it falling over. It needs to have
Yeah, if you develop something, if you can send it, test it on multiple different types of computers, and or if you're doing any different OSs, test it on that, and always have people demo your product and get a good feel for it, and have them go through it and run it. And it's a good way to detect problems early on before you start getting real sales, because that's the worst thing that could hurt your business is word of mouth and bad reviews. And the moment people start finding bugs or breaking it, like your first or second or 10th user who purchased your product, um, they if they have a bad taste in their mouth after using your code or your product, um, that is going to reflect on any future sales. So you want to make sure they have a good experience.
test for the paths users aren't supposed to find. It can actually be debugged at 2 a.m. by a human, and it adds features without collapsing under its own weight. Most vibe-coded apps are prototypes that got mistaken for products. So let's
Try,
go over the three killers again. We had a crowded
Someone out
ICP,
there is going to
we
find a
had the
way to break
trust
it,
ceiling, and we had
no matter
feature
how much testing
compounding.
you've done.
Okay? If you have
It's
nothing
never
to
going to be
defend,
perfect.
you're
It
gonna
doesn't
have
matter
nothing
if you
to
vibe code
charge.
or if you
There's gonna
have.
come a point where if you're gonna try to tackle on an idea, tackle on a problem, you need to understand the trust ceiling because real users are gonna break what you didn't test for. And of course, code you didn't write is gonna pile up faster than you can